and welcome everyone to Immigration and Jobs Talk Show. We are lined up again with another very exciting and amazing episode that is lined up just for you. So do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. I'm Sam, your host. And before moving ahead, before diving into our today's topic, before also announcing the name of our guest, let me read out this very important disclaimer. By watching our videos, you agree and understand that the information provided by our experts and attorneys, including comments and replies from users, is not a legal advice. So, use of information is at your own risk. All right, after this very important disclaimer, I would also like to tell our viewers that we are live on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, and on X as well. So join us from these platforms and let us know from which platform you guys are watching us right now. So I think without any further ado, I would also like to talk about today's topic that we are going to talk about, and that's about E-2 visa updates 2025. What should international investors know? So I think it's a very important topic for everyone, those who are watching us right now. So today we are going to explore everything like what should be the main factors that international investors should look upon. Then also certain mistakes. Also we are going to talk that what the international investors mostly do and how can they avoid them. Then certain different things also like what are the perfect places or how they can build their connections over there. There are so many things that we are going to explore in today's topic. It's going to be extremely informative. So do join us and watch this session till the end. All right, and to help us in exploring this topic in a very detailed way, in a very simple way, I would like to welcome our today's very honorable guest, who will be joining us today for the very first time. So please help me in welcoming none other than attorney Marcelo Gondim. So, attorney Marcelo Gondim is a highly respected immigration attorney and the driving force behind Gondim Law Corp, Los Angeles in California. With years of experience, he is a member of the American Immigration Lawyers Association and is also licensed to practice by the State Bar of California, the U.S. District Court for the Central District of California, and the U.S. Court of Appeal for the Ninth Circuit. So, welcome, Marcelo. We are really honored to have a show with you. Welcome to our very first episode that you're going to have here. And we are really grateful that you have joined us. So, thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
All right. So, Marcelo, why don't you go ahead and share something about with our viewers, like how did you come into immigration field and what was the motivation behind it?
Well, back in the days, I came to the United States as a visitor, and someone told me this is over 25 years ago, and someone told me that I could actually become a lawyer in the United States as well. And that kind of opened my eyes for this possibility. So I changed my status, did not go back to Brazil. That's where I'm from. And I stayed here, changed my status with my whole family at the time, and then I started working as an immigration paralegal for a law firm in Miami. Later on, I found out that I could actually get a license to practice law in California, and I had to take the bar exam. So I did it, and in 2010, I became a lawyer here in the U.S. as well. And I already had some kind of clientele. Let's put it this way, because people knew me from when I was a paralegal. So I started my practice with some clients already, and I've been doing this ever since. So it's been now 15 years
Wow.
working as an immigration attorney. And if I count the time that I was working as a paralegal as well, I can say probably about 23, almost 24 years working in this field.
Wow, that's great. That's really amazing to know about it, and that too you have been for quite a long time. I mean, a very long time in this field. But Marcelo, I would like to just know it from you because you are also an immigrant, so you know the struggles, you know the problems, mostly the immigrants they face. So when you came to US, I mean, 25 years back. So how was your immigration journey? Was it okay as compared to now immigration journey? Most of the people that they are looking ahead to go to the US. How can you compare these two time immigration journey?
Well, it was much different because at the time, cases would take much longer
Mm-hmm.
than they take today, even though people complain about how long the cases take today. But for example, a labor certification case would take about 6 years back in 1999, 1998, 2000. And today it takes about 2 years to complete this phase on the EB3 process, for example. But most of the cases will take much longer than they take today. And it was more difficult. The law was more difficult at the time. It became more simple over the years, despite some change in policy regarding whatever president comes to office, and they change the policy, and the whole country changed their view on immigrants. But overall, it's easier to immigrate today than it was back in 2000, even though it was easier to come to the US in 2000 than it is today.
Oh, wow. That's something different we are going to listen today, because most of the time we are listening that now immigration journey has become very difficult under Trump's administration. So, also, Marcelo, I would like to know your call, your views on Trump's administration, how you are seeing US future under Trump's era.
Well, I think that despite each one's political views or political affiliations, we had to give him a pass the first time around because we didn't know how it was going to be. So I lived during the first 4 years of Trump as a president. And I can tell you that it was not good for immigrants in general. Not only undocumented immigrants, but legal immigrants as well, or people pursuing their green cards or legal status. It was bad for everybody. There was about 400 different policies or executive orders that he issued, all of them bad for immigrants. So we've been through a lot of abuse. The local government, the federal government, I'm sorry, the local government committed several forms of abuse against immigration and immigrants in general, and there was a lot of federal court litigation. Some of these cases made it to the Supreme Court. Uh, Example of DACA, he tried to undo DACA because DACA was made by Obama. So he tried to undo everything Obama did, and he fought to destroy DACA. I don't know if he's going to get in this time around, but he did. He did try a lot and could. I don't know how DACA survived the first 4 years of his administration uh, by any chance. But the fact of the matter is, it was a bad administration for immigration. There was a lot of different rules to make everything more difficult. Even during the pandemic, he was mandating that students, international students, they had to go back to class, or if they didn't have a class during the pandemic, they should go back to their countries. So it was kind of inhumane the way immigrants were treated by the federal government. Most of that stuff was successfully litigated by the ACLU, ALA, which I'm a member of, and other organizations that sued, and individuals also that sued the federal government, and they won in courts many times. So the federal court was very important during the first term of the Trump administration, and it's going to be important now. So, based on what we saw during 2017, 18, 19, and 20, we should not expect anything good coming out in the next 4 years. And we already have signs of this. You already have violation of Constitution with the declaration that people born in the United States, if the parents are not legal, they cannot be considered U.S. citizens. It's a violation to the 14th Amendment of the Constitution. So that's going to be challenged in court. It's already being challenged in court, and he's going to lose, but he's doing it. So that shows the anti-immigrant intent, the anti-immigrant intent of this administration. So that's what we're going to expect now um, for the next 4 years.
Oh my God, I think that's a lot to process, and also, most of the news also we have went through, and there are so many different statements that Trump is putting on. And latest today morning, also we went through some H-1B visa statements also. So, few days back he was against the H-1B visa, and now he's towards H-1B visa. So we can see that he is quite in favor, or maybe he will try to have some leniency towards the H-1B visa. But Marcelo, I would like to know this in terms of E-2 visa. I mean, can we expect something for the E-2 visa applicants under Trump's administration? I mean, how can we expect the future for the E-2 visa applicants?
Well, I don't see anything major changing in terms of E2 visa applications. Those visas are based on treaty between the United States and other countries. So I don't see a lot of it didn't there was not a lot of damage to the E2 visa at the time he was president, the first term. So I'm not expecting anything major now. Of course, the immigration in general can get a little more difficult. More people can get denials, and some kinds of visa will be less favored by his administration. But I don't see a lot of this happening to E2 because E2 is based on investment. So I think any country wants immigrants to come and bring money and invest and create jobs, and maybe one of those companies can be a successful business in the future. We have many companies in the U.S. that were founded by immigrants, and today there are some of the top 500 companies in the world. So it's not something I see anything bad that I can see happening to E2, but I expect some kind of hardening of the approval process.
All right. Okay. So I think E2 visa applicants can feel little relief that there won't be any, I mean, much challenges or much obstacles. I think the process will be little harder, but not that difficult, right, as compared to the other visa places. Okay, so I think now it's time. I would like to directly jump into my questions that we got the overall perspective of what do you think about Trump's administration and also what can be the future of E2 visa. And now, Marcelo, I would like to jump into my very first question that is just for you. So, what are the most important factors that international investors should consider before starting a business in the US?
Well, they should understand that starting a business in the U.S. automatically does not make them qualify for an E2 visa, but certain types of business are better for the E2 visa than others. So instead of just coming here and investing and then say, now I'm going to apply for an E2 visa, it's better to first study the market and consult with an immigration attorney so you know the types of business that will be more favored by an E2 application than others. So you don't go for those types of business that normally make it much more difficult to get your E2 visa application denied, approved. So in cases like this, it's crucial to understand also that there are some certain requirements for the E2 that are not even in the law, but it's in practice, something that you should be aware of. One of them is the minimum investment. What's the minimum amount of investment? The law talks about substantial investment, but what's substantial to one might not be substantial to another. So the attorneys, almost all the attorneys, they come up with this $100,000 as a minimum for the investment. It's not in the law. I've seen cases approved with 50, 60, $70,000. But we try here at Gondim Law, for example, we try to keep it above 100 to increase the chances of the person getting approved. There are some other things that people need to uh, be concerned about, which is, for example, in order to apply for an E2 visa, you have to have already established your business. You cannot just apply for the visa at the embassy and then they'll give you the visa so you can come here and then you can open the company and all that stuff. No, you have to do that before. The company has to be in existence by the time you apply, and the investment has to have already been made. On top of that, you need to have spent the money that you invest in the business, meaning the investment was made at risk. So you cannot just transfer the money from your individual account to your business account and say, "Oh, I made my investment. I want my visa." Doesn't work that way. So you need to commit those funds at risk, meaning if you get the visa approved and you don't work with the business, you're going to lose that investment. So just transfer the money is not enough. So there are some other things that need to be taken care of, but basically, this is the first step if you're planning on coming to the United States as an E2 investor.
Wow. So I think that was a pretty long and detailed explanation that we got. So thank you so much, Marcelo, for letting us know about how the process goes and also about the amount, the minimum amount. And that's very important. I was about to ask that question, but you already mentioned that. Also, Marcelo, I would like to know the common mistakes that, the investors, the international investors mostly do. So I think it would be great if you could mention about some common mistakes that international investors do and how they can avoid them.
Well, one common mistake is going for the wrong type of business and try to get the E2 um, on that type of business. So, for example, if people want to invest in franchise, they're going to buy a franchise, and that franchise is going to be your investment. Is it doable? Yes, it is doable, but it needs to be first investigated and analyzed by an immigration attorney that handles E2 visas, because sometimes franchises can be too intrusive. The franchise corporation might be dictating all the rules in your business. For example, what time you open, what time you close, where you have to buy the products, the raw materials, whatever you sell. So if it's too intrusive to the point that you're just being merely a manager for their business and you have no say in the operations, that might be difficult to approve on an E2 capacity in some cases. So it's very important to know before you invest what kind of business is good for the E2.
Absolutely. And I think that's a major thing that, we should understand firstly what is a good option for their business. So Marcelo, are there any business types that you want to recommend to our viewers that these are the safer business options that they can invest over there?
Of course, I think a better way to handle this is to tell the visa types that are not good for the E2, because everything is good for the E2, but some types are problematic, and that's for a reason. I'm going to tell you the reason now. So let's say companies that provide services like consulting services and services in general, sometimes those types of business can be very challenging for E2, because how are you going to say you're going to spend $100,000 in that business? Sometimes consulting services, or say any kind of service that there's no physical location necessary, there is no manufacturing or inventory, those are bad for E2. Sometimes it might be even impossible to approve E2 cases if you have a business like that. Also, some businesses that are too small in terms of growth, that can be problematic, because there's one of the criteria for the E2 visa is that the enterprise is not marginal. And marginal means it's only there to pay for your subsistence, to pay for your bills, and so you can stay in the US. It's not really any corporation that is going to have some growth and some financial progress. So that's not good either. So you need to have a business that is going to grow eventually, more than what you need to just to pay for your bills, just to pay for your existence in the US. And you're going to have progress with this company, even if you don't actually reach those numbers, but at least the business plan is showing that you're going to have progress. It's not going to be a marginal enterprise. So businesses that are too small and businesses that are purely service businesses, they are not very good for E2 visas. Everything else is okay.
All right. I hope our viewers are getting to know, and I hope they are finding it very helpful and very informative, because it's not just about, how much investment you are putting on it. It's also very important, like which business you are selecting and what can be the process and what are the criterias that that business is going to be suitable for you. So there are very small points, very criteria, small criterias that most of our viewers, they skip those, maybe by mistake or maybe something, but I think this session is going to be helpful for them, and it's going to be very important for them to understand that these small pointers are very important. All right, so thank you so much, Marcelo, for taking these questions and explaining this to our viewers. I'm sure they are loving it. And with that, I would also like to ask the importance of the investors, how can they build the connections? How can they build the network? I mean, can you please explain what is the importance of having a connection in US investing about it?
Well, yes, because if you make the investment and you open your business, if you don't have a network or if you don't know how to establish a network, it's going to be hard for this business to take off. And
Right.
maybe in a few years, you're going to have to renew this visa or get an extension of this visa, the status, and you're going to find it challenging because your business did not take off. So it's good to have this network. Sometimes suppliers, sometimes buyers, distributors, logistics. Depending on the type of business, it's good to know already the market. And so what you can do in order to acquire that information prior to applying your E-2 visa is obtain a B1 visa. A B1 visa is a visa for business. So some people are from countries that don't require a visa for tourists. For tourists, they can just come over, but they have to leave the country in 90 days. In some other situations, if you come with a B1 or B2 visa, B1 being for business and B2 being for pleasure, as like a visitor, like a tourist, then you get 6 months and you can extend the status. You can apply for an extension of status or even change from B to E status. So that's important because that's going to give you time to sort out your area where you're going to open your business and how to establish this network. If you already have people that you know in the US that are in those kind of businesses, you might be in a better situation to start something because you already have the supplier, the provider, the contractor, the partner, whatever you have here. So it can be it can be a good start.
Absolutely. All right, Marcelo, here's my another question that I would like to know it from you. That what should international investors know about the US labor market before hiring employees for their business?
Well, the U.S. labor market is very, very strong right now. We're coming off the 4 years of the Biden administration where there was job growth every month, and sometimes making record of job growth, job creation. So the job market in the U.S. is very hot at this moment. We don't know how this is going to continue in the next 4 years, but as of right now, it's very hot, and that makes it challenging for some investors, some entrepreneurs to find labor. So you have to actually offer competitive rates, salary, wages, so you can hire people because it's really not that easy to find people that are unemployed just waiting for someone to offer them a job. You don't have that in the US right now. So the job market is very competitive for the
Yeah.
employer to find good employees. And but also remember that as an investor, an E2 investor, you can actually sponsor other immigrants through your business. So if you don't find employees here in the US, you can bring them from abroad. There are certain tools that you can use for that. And just because you're not a legal permanent resident or citizen doesn't mean that your company cannot sponsor someone on some temporary visa.
Wow. I think that's one of the biggest advantage. So, Marcelo, is this the advantage only for the E2 visa, or do other visas also have the same benefit?
Yeah, other visas have the same benefits, the same benefit. It depends on really the characteristics of each person and their financial goals and their credentials, of course. So there are certain visas that overlap some of the benefits, but they also have some differences that will make sometimes a person that qualifies for the E2, the H1B, the L1, they qualify for all those visas, but the E2 has something that the other doesn't have, or there's a requirement that I cannot meet on that visa, but on the E2, I don't have that requirement. So it's always good to compare, never settle just with one type of visa, you know. And you asked before, what's the main advice that I will give to people that are interested in applying for the E2? I say this to any non-immigrant visa and non-immigrant worker visa. never try to adapt your whole life for the visa. If you try to conform to the visa that is not organically available to you, it's going to be challenging. It's going to be very difficult. So if you already have all the elements and the E-2 visa or any other non-immigrant visa requires such and such, and you have those things already, it's fine. The visa is going to be your tool to come to the US and operate your business, do whatever you have to do with that visa. But when you don't have those organically available and you're going to try to conform to that in order to get that visa at any cost, the cost might be too high.
All right. So, Marcelo, do you think that these benefits or these advantages for the E2 visa will remain same during Trump's administration, or will he try to put some more hurdles into the benefits of the E2 visa?
I believe that the Department of State, which is the agency that controls the consulates and embassies of the United States all over the world, I think they're going to be a little more selective on who they should apply for the E2, who they should approve for E2. So, and we know that from the previous administration, previous Trump administration 1.0, what to expect in 2.0. So in 1.0, some nations were more favored than others. Um, Unfortunately, sometimes based on race, sometimes based on economic status, and sometimes based on immigration status of those nations. Like nations that send a lot of immigrants to the U.S. might be less favored than others. But that's just something that it's so far from the E2 that I don't think is going to directly affect E2 applicants.
We hope so. That doesn't affect much. All right, and that's all. I think we have covered a few questions from my end. And I would also like to greet our viewers, Marcelo. Here are Geeta, then Krishna, Ashwarya also. So, welcome everyone, and thank you so much for joining and putting these questions. We are here for an hour, so it would be great if you could also put more questions, and we are definitely going to take all those questions up. So feel free to put any questions regarding our today's topic, and we'll be taking that up. I think, Marcelo, let's take the first question that we got from Geeta. And Geeta is asking that as I'm considering investing in a startup, I would like to understand how the recent E2 visa updates will impact my eligibility. Specifically, will the changes make it more challenging or easier for me to qualify for the visa, given that my investment is in a new venture rather than an established business?
No, there's not going to be any major change to that aspect. So if you are going to invest in a new enterprise, you have certain things that you need to take care of that you don't have to take care of if you're going to buy an enterprise. For example, investment at risk. It's one of the criteria for E2 petitions. So if you buy a new business, an existing business, you already made the investment. You already invested at risk because you already committed to those funds. Now, if you open a new business, it's different because you're going to transfer the funds to the business account and your business has not started yet. It's a startup. So you're going to have to show that you committed those funds before you can apply. So that can be a little challenging for some types of visa. For example, real estate business, it's difficult to say that you committed the funds because sometimes, and also because of the liquidity of the assets. If you buy real estate to manage, so you can sell that real estate really quick, and then you don't have any investment at risk. So those things can be challenging for new companies more than for buy an existing company. On the other hand, when you buy an existing company, you might be buying a bad business or sometimes a business that has problems that in the due diligence process you might not be able to catch. So then you're going to have trouble down the road. What sometimes we suggest people to do if they want to buy an existing business is to hire a CPA, a certified public accountant, to do a whole background study on that business and see if it's viable and there's some fiscal problems. and but also create a separate company to buy the assets from that business rather than buying the company altogether. But if you're going to have a startup, you can do that too. You can have a startup, like you said in your question, but your startup buys assets from the existing business rather than buying the existing business. In that situation, you're just buying the assets, not the problems.
Wow. I think that's wonderfully explained, and thank you so much, Geeta, also for putting this important question. And I'm hoping that Marcelo's advice is going to be very helpful for you. But still, in case if you have any follow-up question or any other doubt regarding this topic or regarding the explanation, then please go ahead and put it on the comment section. We will definitely take them up. Moving ahead, I think Krishna is also here, and Krishna is asking a question that let's say I invest a significant amount in a business, but due to unforeseen circumstances, the business doesn't perform as well as expected. How flexible are the E-2 visa regulations if my business faces financial setbacks? Can I still maintain my visa if the business struggles? Yeah.
Yes, if your business struggles and you don't meet the goals set forth in your business plan that was presented to you to the immigration authorities to get your visa approved, it doesn't mean that you are unlawfully present in the U.S. You have to leave or any of that stuff. But that's not saying that if you don't operate your business at all, you're still okay to stay in the U.S. So, for example, if your business doesn't have any growth and you don't even sell anything and the business does not operate, you cannot just say that just because the market is tough and you couldn't get around to sell your products, you are not maintaining your visa, your status, if you're not operating the business. But now if your business is struggling, but you're still trying to make the business take off, no problem there. Even if you can, if you have to do an extension of your status or your visa or renew your visa, even if your business is not that successful as you thought it would be, you can still apply and you can still renew that visa or extend your status. As long as it's showing that you're trying and the business it has the ability to eventually grow to the point that it's not going to be considered marginal.
Right, right, absolutely. All right, so I think Marcelo, here's another question that I would like to know it from you. That is it possible for an investor to use borrowed funds for their E-2 visa investment?
Well, this is an excellent question, and this is actually a topic that has it's been subject of litigation over the years. So the regulations authorize that you use borrowed funds for the investment. However, you have to be responsible for to repay that loan or that loan or whatever, however you borrow the money. The business itself cannot be responsible for that, not even a collateral or a security for that loan. So if you, for example, buy something, you're going to buy a company here in the US, a small business, and you're going to invest in E2, and you go to the bank and say, I want a loan so I can buy a business. And the bank gives you $100,000 to buy that business cannot be secured a security to that loan. There has to be you personally or some other assets that you have. That's not a problem. Even if it's a family member, or even if you buy, for example, inventory of the merchandise that you're going to sell, you buy the merchandise and put that merchandise in the business as an investment. You have to be responsible for that, not the business
Yeah.
at that moment. Because if you really put the business as a security, then the investment is not at risk. The business is at risk. So you have to invest and have the possibility of losing everything. So in this case, you need to be securing that loan or however you borrow that money.
Absolutely. I think that should be there, and being informative, it's also very important. So I think it's very important for everyone, to stay updated and to let everyone knows about the latest updates and what's so happening regarding the E-2 visa. It's very important for them. So with that, I think that's very well explained from your end, Marcelo. And there's another question that I would like to know it from you. that might stopping sorry, yeah, India is not applicable for the E2 visa, right? So how can a prominent Indian businessman proceed in the case? What's your call on that?
Well, I would suggest to try to see the L1A visa. So the L1A visa can be much better than the E2. Actually, not better, possible, because for
Mhm.
India, only once India has a treaty with the United States, they can Indian citizens can apply for an E2 visa. So the L1 is not country specific. So that one anybody can apply, but that requires a different set of rules. That requires you to have your business in India. You have to have a certain number of employees, three, levels in your organizational chart, so that you are on top. And then you create another company in the U.S. This company can be your affiliate or subsidiary from the Indian company, and then you get transferred as a international, multinational executive or manager. I've done actually this kind of visa for Indian citizens in the past, but that requires you to have a company well established in India with a certain number of employees, and that you have to have your company very straight with the government so you can show the documentation like payroll, um, uh, how you have your premises, if it's leased or if it's on property. So you have to show all that stuff to the government related to your company in India, and create your company in the United States that's going to be receiving that manager. That can be yourself. That's a better option, a viable option, because it's not country specific, and there's no minimum investment also.
All right. Also, Marcelo, here's another question: that what type of businesses are considered to qualify for the E2 visa investments?
What are they? I'm sorry, I didn't.
Yeah, basically, I want to ask the types of businesses that are considered qualifying for the E2 visa investments.
So basically, any kind of business will qualify. So before I talked about the ones that don't qualify, they don't qualify, no, they make it a little more difficult
All
to
right.
be. So basically, there's no limitation in the law that any business will qualify for the E2 as long as you can show all the five criteria. And the most important of them is that the investment is at risk. The investment, substantial investment, was made at risk, and it's very difficult to do this with companies that provide services, for example, because you don't need to invest $100,000 in a company. Even if the company is going to make millions, you don't have to invest $100,000. There are some ways to do this by securing an office space and pay everything up front so that you can get close to 100,000, or committing to contracts for vendors and contractors, and that kind of situation is going to show that even though you didn't spend the money yet, but you committed to those funds yet already. So that might be a way to go by, but normally any kind of business qualifies for the E2 as long as you can show all the five criteria successfully.
All right, that's great. Okay, and with that, I would also like to know it from you, Marcelo, that what are the options for someone in case if their investment fails while on an E2 visa? I mean, can they reapply for the visa?
Yeah, they can reapply. They just have to make another investment or go to a different business, and they will be able to. It's not bad faith or not fraud or any violation of the immigration laws to fail your business. A business can always fail. That's why they require that your investment is made at risk.
Right. Absolutely. And most of the people get so much worried about these things that now they failed in the investment. So what else can they do? But I think it's not much to worry because it's just a process. And by being updated and by knowing everything, I think they can reapply with the process. So I think that's another question that we have received from Ashwarya, and I think I should pick up this question. So Ashwarya is asking that are there any changes to the list of treaty countries eligible for the E2 visa? Has the minimum required investment amount been revised? If so, how does it vary by industry or region?
Well, there was the most recent change to the list of countries was Portugal being admitted to the list of treaty countries. So the last one was Portugal. So there was also some projects that didn't go through yet, but they would limit the ability of people applying for E2 visas if they can get citizenship in those countries just by making a small investment or buying real estate. So that's not the case yet, but there's no significant change to the list of treaty countries. You can access this just by Googling. You can just Google E2 treaty countries, and you see the list right away. The first link is from the Department of State, where you have the list of countries there for E1 and E2. Remember, the E1 is the cousin of the E2. But those two visas, not every country qualifies for both. Sometimes they qualify just for the E1, sometimes just for the E2, but most countries qualify for both. And
All
in
right.
terms of the investment, which was another question, the second part of the question,
Yeah.
um, there's no minimum requirement for the investment. The only requirement is that the investment is substantial. To better understand this, imagine that, let's give an example so we can uh,
Sure.
picture this better. Let's say that your investment, you're gonna invest $1 million. So that's the amount that you have to invest. Is that substantial? Most people will say yes, because it's way over $100,000, 10 times $100,000. So that should be substantial, but uh, not quite sure yet. It needs to be substantial in relation to the industry or the type of business that you're going to open. If you say that your business is like an automaker, like you're going to manufacture cars, $1 million doesn't get you started with this business. Doesn't get you anywhere. Not even to develop to build the gate of the facilities where you're going to build those cars. So that's not a substantial investment. But if you say, I'm going to open a small coffee shop, a small restaurant, maybe $1 million is too much. Who knows? So it depends on the region based on the cost to start a business in some regions of the United States versus others. But in terms of being a substantial investment, that is going to be defined by the initial capital necessary, which is established on your business plan.
Absolutely. And I think with that, Ashwarya has also got her answer. And I think let's move ahead with Jitendra. So Jitendra is asking about the, do you think specific industries or sectors are more favorable for E2 visa approval this year?
Well, in this year and always, it's like basically those more favorable um, or more favored, I should say, are the ones that you're gonna actually spend the money right away. So let's say you're gonna manufacture things, so you have to buy machinery, you have to buy raw materials, you have to buy supplies. So those in those cases, it's very easy to establish that the substantial was the substantial investment was made and it was at risk because you already spent the money buying those things versus service companies, like I said before. Some others are the ones that are like a distributorship, like you're gonna import products in the United States, so you have to buy inventory. So the first initial investment can be committed at risk if you're gonna buy inventory. So those businesses are always easier for E2 to get approved.
All right. I hope, Jitendra, you got your answer. In case if you still have any follow up, then please go ahead and post them on the comment section. And we will definitely try our best to provide you the best answer and the expert advice over that. Also, you can also consult attorney Marcelo Gondim over there. And I think it would be great if you could directly reach out to him, on the given details, on the given contact details. You can call him on 323-282-770. You can also email him on the given email ID, that's frontdesk at gondim-law.com. And you can surely visit his website, that is www.gondimlaw.com. I think reaching out to him directly will be one of the best advice I could give you in this session, and that will be very helpful for you. So thank you so much, Jitendra, for your question. And here I can see Shraddha's question, so let's take her up. She's asking, can you elaborate on the feasibility and potential risk of an Indian investor partnering with business partner from an E2 treaty country to qualify for an E2 visa?
Well, that's not going to happen for the Indian citizen, Indian investor. They can partner with an E2 investor, but they're not going to get a visa because they're not from a treaty country. So India doesn't have a treaty with the United States. The only, say, since you mentioned partner, if it's another type of partnership, then maybe that would be the case. For example, if an Indian citizen is married to someone who is from a treaty country and they make that investment together, the the person who is from the treaty country will get the E2 visa, and the Indian national will also get their E2 visa, even though they are not from a treaty country. So that's possible, but not business partnership. It has to be a marital partnership.
Absolutely. I think, yeah, with that, I would like to move ahead with another question that Jitendra has asked. And he's asking that have there been changes to work authorization or benefits for E2 visa spouses or dependents in 2025?
No, there has not been any changes yet. We're going to have to see what the new administration is going to come up with. But as a general rule, the E2 derivative, or in this case, the spouse, not just all derivatives, because children are not allowed to get employment authorization, but the spouse will get work authorization. And it's actually funny that in the E2 visa, the investor has less rights than the dependent or derivative because the derivative has a work authorization to work in anything, including their own business. But the investor can only work in that business and doing what they said they would be doing.
But why is it that the dependents they have more benefits and why not the actual applicants?
Because of the nature of the application. So if the investor is saying, I'm going to invest in this business, the only reason they're getting the visa is because they're going to invest and manage the business. So they have to manage the business. If you allow the main investor to invest, get the visa, and work in multiple jobs, then that business is going to be probably forgotten if they start to work for large corporations and make more money than the business is rendering at the time. But now for the spouse is different because the spouse cannot just be sitting around and waiting for the working spouse to come home. So they need to
Yeah,
also work. So in that case, they can work anywhere.
absolutely. All right, so I think these were some of the questions that we received from our viewers, and we also have a Facebook question. So I think, Marcelo, we can, if you allow, then we can also look for the Facebook questions because they're also a group where most of the people, ask the questions. So I think that will be okay, right? If we are going to take those questions up.
Absolutely. Let's go.
All right. So I think this is the first question that we got from our Facebook group. And it's about hello everyone. My mom will be visiting the USA on a B1 B2 visa. Could you please suggest the best insurance for her? She's 50 years old. Is it necessary to have insurance during her visit? And it's regarding the B1 B2 visa, but that's okay, Marcelo. I mean, do you would you like to take this up or would you like to pass it on?
Yeah, no, that's fine. You just have to get like traveler's insurance.
All right. Okay, I think let's move ahead with our next question. And this is the question that we have regarding the H1B. So I'm on H1B and I got impacted by the layoffs at my company. I had booked a Dropbox appointment for next month to get stamping done. I will have to cancel it now. My question is once I find a new job, can I use the fee I paid earlier to secure a new appointment or will I have to start all over again?
It depends on the amount of time that you're gonna take from to transition from one to another. So it's difficult to say. If you have the appointment already scheduled for that employer, and then you have to go to another employer, sometimes the consulate might just make an amendment to your application, but sometimes they're going to say no, you have to apply all over again.
Yeah, absolutely. I hope our member got his answer, and I think we should move ahead with our next question. So, I think this question can be skipped. This also can be skipped. I think we should more focus on the E2 visa because that's more important. All right. I think meanwhile the control is giving the question regarding our E2 visa. I would also like to know, Marcelo, from your end, that how long can someone stay in the US on an E2 visa? I think first answer this. After that, we can come back to FB1. Yeah.
So the question is how long can someone stay in the US on a E2 visa? Well, the maximum for each visa is 5 years. Once they
Mhm.
come to the US, they will be given a status. That could be 1 year, 2 years, and they can just go out and come back and renew that status, and or they can apply to extend the status here. But there's no limitation on how many visas you can get. So you can
Yeah.
have a visa for 5 years, get another one for another 5 years, and you can be doing this your whole life. As long as the business is operating and meeting the criteria, you should be okay.
All right. Okay, and I think now we should come back to our Facebook question. So, yeah, here's a question that I would like to read out. That's hello, I'm an E2 visa holder based in the US with natural born children here. Does anybody have insight on what a removal of birthright citizenship would mean for my children? So, it's a very latest question that we got. So, what's your call on that?
Well, first of all, if this person already has the natural born children in the U.S., they're not going to be affected by this ridiculous executive order that the president issued. This is just for people who are born after that. Okay, they could be impacted. I don't
Mhm.
think necessarily they're going to be impacted because I'm confident that the courts are going to issue an injunction. They probably have already issued an injunction even before we finish this meeting here because it's
Yeah.
just ridiculous. It's just unconstitutional on its face. I think this is just a political stunt. It's not really something that he is expecting to get traction and to become a valid rule. It's not. So I don't think that's going to affect this person because they already have their children that were born here. But for future babies, if they have babies in the U.S. and this executive order is in place, which I doubt it's going to be, then they might be not considered to be U.S. citizens. These children. I don't think that's going to happen, honestly.
Also, Marcelo, you said that this executive order is ridiculous, as you mentioned right now. So, can we know the reason behind, like, why Trump is about to end this birthright citizenship? I mean, what can be the reasons behind it? We would just like to know that.
It's just that he doesn't like immigrants, and the person behind the administration immigration policies is Stephen Miller. It's not even Trump. I don't know. I don't think he knows any of that
Mhm.
stuff. He doesn't have the capacity of understanding those things. But there's some people that have the capacity, but they're just mean. They're just, unfortunately, I don't like to say this, but they are racist. They are xenophobic, and they just don't want immigrants to come to the U.S. And they cannot stand the fact that immigrants from different backgrounds come here, and when their babies are born, they are now U.S. citizens. So you have a U.S. citizen population that is getting less, that looks less like them than they would allow to be. They would like it to be. So that's their problem. I think it's just racism.
Oh God, that's a lot to process, and I think that's very great of you that you are being so straightforward. So I hope that our audience can understand these factors and they can connect with you more. But also, Marcelo, here's another follow up that I would just like to know it out of curiosity. That as you said, the reasons behind, like, why is he going to do that? So do you think it's going to also somehow limit the illegal immigrants to come into the US? Because his main motive is to stop the illegal immigration, right? And if he is putting up this executive order, this birthright citizenship, so I think automatically there will be less immigrants in the US. And somehow it will also limit the illegal immigrants. So, do you think it's going to be effective towards the illegal immigration concept?
Honestly, I don't, because the reason we have illegal immigrants in the U.S. and people coming through the border, it's not because of the policy of the government here. It's because of the situation in those countries. People are, if someone tells you, if you don't do what I want, we're gonna kill you and your family, and you know that you have that border over there. If you manage to just cross that border, you're safe, you're gonna come. Doesn't matter who's the president, doesn't matter what the policy is. In terms of people illegally crossing the border, let's talk about CBP one.
Yeah,
So
sure.
President Biden came up with CBP one, where the person doesn't have to come to the United States and cross the border and then apply for asylum here once they get caught. They can just apply through the app. They're gonna be vetted before, and then once they give they give them the appointment, they will come to the border, present the app showing that they have the appointment for that day, and they will be heard according to the U.S. asylum laws. So
Yeah.
that's an orderly way to do things. But in the first couple of hours after swearing the oath, which he's not gonna comply with it, we know that, respect the Constitution. He already showing that. So once after hours after doing this, he canceled CBP one. So now
Yeah.
people don't have to orderly apply for asylum. They have to cross the border. Even those who were waiting patiently for sometimes 7 months to a year, waiting for
Yeah.
their appointment, those people are going to feel frustrated, and they don't have a better choice. They don't have the choice to say, okay, well, they cancel my appointment. I better stay in my country then and face those cartels and the economic instability, all the crime, the corruption. They're going to try to come no matter what.
Absolutely. And we also come across to the news that CBP One app has also banned. I think few days back, yesterday only we got that news. So it's very
Mhm.
sad for those applicants because they most of them they were expecting their schedules were there and they were waiting for their appointments, but somehow they couldn't get into it, and it's very sad for them. But I think that was the only option, right, Marcelo, for them to come to the US legally, and there won't be other option. And
There's no other option. If you come
yeah,
to the US, but
yeah.
the law says if the person is found in the US, um, it doesn't matter how they got here. If they are found in the US and they have a reasonable fear to go back to their countries because they are part of one of the five grounds of protection under the asylum laws, they have to have an opportunity to present their case, to be heard, and see if they have a credible fear to go back, if they're going to be harmed by going back to the country. It's illegal under the law for the United States to deport someone that they know it's more likely than not to be harmed just because of their political affiliation, nationality, race, religion, or membership in a particular social group.
Absolutely. I think that's very well put up. And I think we should not divert our ideologies towards the other topic because for that we need to have another session to discuss
Yeah.
everything about Trump's administration. But I think that's so good of you, Marcelo, for putting these thoughts up. And I think there are a lot to know it from you, there are a lot to learn it from you. And I think we should come back to our topic that we would like to take up from the Facebook group. So there's a question that hi, I'm an E2 dependent spouse, currently pregnant due on March. Will the birthright citizenship removal take effect that soon, or will it be on hold due to 22 state lawsuits contradicting it?
Well, I'm pretty sure that the judges are gonna enjoin this executive order. So I wouldn't swear. I wouldn't sweat a little bit with this executive order. It's just making people angry and
Yeah.
making some people happy. But it's really a sandcastle. The first wave would take this down.
All right. So I think we can expect something better after your show. That we can expect that something better will happen. But I think with that, we have one more question, and that's about. I think this would be the last one. Can we travel on B1, B2 if we have applied for EB2? Any issue in it? What would you like to say on this?
Well, it's not an issue. according to the law, but sometimes the immigration officer might think that you have the intention to live in the country because you're applying for a green card. So the B1, B2, they are non-immigrant visas. They are not dual intent, meaning you cannot have double intention. You can only have one intention, which is to come to the United States, visit, and leave. So if you're already applying for EB2, that might be maybe this person doesn't have the real intent to leave later. They have immigration intent, but that's not the only thing to look for. So sometimes even if you have an EB2 that is pending or approved, you can still come with the B2, B1, B1, B2 visa, and you'll be admitted normally, unless we see like a tougher approach by CBP during the Trump administration.
Right, right. So I hope he got your answer, and thank you so much for participating in today's session. And Marcelo, we already come across an hour of this session, and I think there were lots of informative pointers that you put up, and I think that was wonderfully put up. Everything, even the political aspects, also we got to know it from you. So that was wonderful, and thank you so much, for joining us. Any last message, Marcelo, that you would like to share with our viewers, especially regarding the people who are applying for E2 visa or those who are looking forward to the E2 visa?
Well, don't have the wrong image of the United States. Okay, as an immigrant and now United States citizen since 2010, I can
Mhm.
tell you that this is not the United States. This is not even the majority of the opinion here. This is the majority of the people who voted, which is the minority of the population. So this is not, and also if you want to immigrate to the U.S., try to look for some of the states that are more welcoming to immigrants. Because if people vote for these politicians because of their rhetoric against immigration, then probably the population doesn't like immigrants either. So in this case, why would you go to those states? So if you want to have a list of the states, it's very simple. Go to Google and type 2024 electoral map. Whatever you see blue, you can safely go to those states. And when you see red, you might think twice.
Wow. I think that's wonderful, and I think that was very important for our viewers also to know about it. And I think that was very well put up. So, thank you so much, Marcelo, for making us aware about these things. Because even I, whenever we mostly used to think about like where you want to immigrate yourself, first thing comes up is US. But I think putting these pointers up that it's not very much important to go to that country where the people are not very much friendly towards immigrants. I think that's very important to know. But also, Marcelo, if there are other countries that you would like to recommend, I mean, would you like to go ahead and share some two or three names of those countries that are pretty friendly towards immigrants?
Well, right now it's difficult to find countries that are really because this right wing movement that is going globally. So I think the United States is the most favorable to immigrant country, besides having Trump as president now. Other countries like Canada, they are changing their policies as well. Maybe because they don't want people to go to Canada to try to cross the border to the U.S. So they are being forced to be less pro-immigrant because of those including a lot of people from India. They're going to Canada and try to cross the northern border to the
Yeah.
United States. And the majority of border crossing, there is apprehensions in the northern border is Indian people. So it's happening a lot. So Canada is trying to block this by being a little less pro-immigrant. Um, I don't think necessarily the countries in Europe are very pro-immigrant either. A country has that kind of nationalism. They like to
Yeah.
preserve their people. I think the United States is actually the differential in this whole thing, even with Trump as president.
Absolutely. Well, I think that's very well explained, and thank you so much, Marcelo. For your time, for your informative session, and I think it was really great. It's not only me who was feeling so filled up with different knowledge, but I hope that our viewers are also getting to know a lot towards E-2 visa, a lot towards the political aspect also. So I would say thank you so much for joining us. We are really honored to have a show with you, and it was a first show. And we really didn't feel like that because you were so much involved into the conversation. So thank you so much for bringing up that energy, bringing up that insightful discussion to this platform. And we are really obliged for your time and for your sessions. Thank you so much again, once again.
Likewise, I'm always honored to be here.
That's so sweet of you. All right, everyone. So thank you so much for joining in today's session, and those who have commented here. I think all the insightful answers that attorney Marcelo Gondim has given it to you, you feel it very helpful and very informative. So do like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to stay connected and stay tuned. And the best part is you can also contact our today's attorney on the given details. You can call him on 323-282-770, and you can also email him on frontdesk@gondim-law.com. And you can also visit his website, that is www.gondimlaw.com. So I think these are the contact details, and you can go ahead and reach out to him as soon as possible. That will be the best thing. And yeah, stay connected, everyone. Stay tuned, and thank you so much once again, everyone, for joining this session. And thank you so much, Attorney Marcelo, for being here and making this session a great one. So I hope to see you soon. And as we are covering lots of details and lots of different topics every week, so stay tuned, stay connected. Meanwhile, me, Sam, signing off for now. So goodbye and take care.
Thank you. Take care.